Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Raw Talks podcast. Me and Mark today. How you doing,
Howdy.
Mark?
I'm all good.
Nice. Today is episode 43, I think, and we're still on the topic of relationships, and we will talk about mirroring, triggers, accountability, weaponizing, boundaries, and all these lovely things that we have going on in it's going on in all our relationships, really. So you can use this approach on any human that you have around you. But first, special news from the farm. January 7, we have our first retreat of the year, but this time it's going to be an all men's retreat. So 3 spots are already booked, and we have 1 single spot left. So I just want to put that out there in the universe and say that we have 1 spot left for an all men's retreat. And what's going to happen in the men's retreat? Just a quick description, Mark. You're the one who's going to be, you and Simba are going to host this one.
Yeah, so Simba and I are really looking forward to this special event because we want to provide a safe space for men to explore healthy masculinity. So we're going to do a really deep dive into the body, mind, and spiritual aspect of what does it mean to be a healthy masculine person. We've got a book study that's going to be a part of the program, and so there'll be time for us to read and reflect and share. And the whole goal is really to, work with the man on many different levels, mostly with the nervous system, because that's how we do everything at Living with the Spirit. And we can see that when the man is grounded and rooted, then connected, that his masculinity opens up and shines. And it's not the other way around, where most people tend to think that if you just go to the gym and eat meat or whatever, that your masculinity will shine, but it's actually through the process of grounding the nervous system that the masculinity can shine. And so all of the things that we're going to do over that 3-week period are going to be aimed at grounding the man's nervous system. We'll be working together and sharing together.
Yeah, that's going to be you're going to put in a lot of work for this one, prepping for this one, because this is a unique experience coming up. So yeah, reach out if you're curious about more, and we can set up consultation. And regarding our mentorship programs, we are opening up new spots. So the next cohort will start February 4, I think, in 2024. So we have a couple of spots that will be open to start a 6-month journey with us. And the Holistic Lifestyle Redesign Mentorship Program is our online service. So you make all the transformation from your own home. And until the end of January, we have a special campaign going on, both for the retreats and for the mentorship programs, because we are relaunching them from 2024. So there's a new setup for both of the programs. You can read all about it on our website. But if you sign up before the end of January, you will get all the new stuff, all the new upgrades, but for the old price. So it's about $2,500 discount on either the mentorship or the retreat. So you can, if you book before end of January, you can start at any time during 2024. So that's our Christmas gift, our Christmas campaign. But yeah, let's dive into today's topic. So I think that most people nowadays are quite into the term of mirroring or reflecting or being accountable for your own triggers and stuff like that. In the personal development field, this is a widely known philosophy or way of working, and this is something that we believe very strongly, that the triggers that we experience is connected to the unprocessed stress in the nervous system, or unprocessed memories, or unprocessed traumas and emotional blockages or belief systems and stuff like that, because everything is kind of gathered in the nervous system. And when we are triggered by a situation that resembles an old unprocessed event, this old emotions kicks in the body. And that is because the body is very clever. It's a magical creation, the physical body, because it automatically is looking for and seeking for a similar situation, so that with a new awareness, we can solve the situation and release the pent up energy that is going through a loop like this. So we all have our different trauma loops and patterns and behaviors, and we all have these things like, oh, I'm doing this again, and or now I'm in this same situation again. And that could be small things to, we've been working with people who've had like 13 traffic accidents, the past 4 years. And it's the body that, that was looking for this solution, but from the outside, it can seem like you're crazy, or, like you must be possessed or something, that has had like 13 crashes in a couple of years. But it's the body is looking for a way out. But this may not always be the most easier thing to do, because when we are in our relationships, we get triggered in multiple ways all the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a spouse. It can be a colleague or friend, or, someone at the bank having a bad day, you can get triggered, or in the cashier's desk,
Yeah. Yeah, this idea of mirroring, comes about from the idea that everything that we experience, everything that we see, and everything that we do around us is kind of like a reflection. Because really, everything that you do see, you see with your eyes, but your eyes take that information and internalize it and run it through all of your filters. And so you have your filters of your biases, you have your filters of your traumas, your filters of your history, filters of your judgments, of your likes, your dislikes. So what we actually see gets kind of all jumbled up in our minds. And then we take that information and we project it back out again at other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this, it becomes quite messy quite fast. If you can see it all over the world right now, the cancel culture is, massive. It's like, as soon as you're triggered, you're like, you did this to me,
blame, shame, guilt. Yeah.
All the time. It's almost like we have a second pandemic, it's like, the guilt and the shame and the blaming is flying everywhere. And with that, it just creates more drama.
Yeah, well, it enables everyone to just point their fingers, and it's okay to do that. And let's all just point our fingers in every other direction except for this way. Yeah. We never point this way, only out.
My yoga teacher once said, if you're pointing the finger, remember that it's like 3 fingers are pointing back at you.
Yeah.
So when you point the finger, it's like you're pointing 3 fingers back at you. Yeah. And there's so many exercises. I remember when we did an exercise with our breathwork teacher, it was what I really don't like about you, that is really about me, is. So there's an exercise where you get to sit in front of the person that you're just fuming with, or like really triggered by, and say,
yeah,
what I really don't like about you, that is really about me, is you don't clean up your mess in the bathroom, or whatever, you leave your dirty laundry on the floor.
Yeah. That's a good example.
But you had a nice example too.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the things that I realized like way later. Like I didn't have the emotional intelligence. Yeah, I didn't have the emotional intelligence to recognize this in the moment, and I probably caused myself and my partner lots of pain and misery over this topic. But having the hindsight now, I can easily share about it. But my ex-wife and I, we would often go out to eat with friends and colleagues, and just anytime that we were in a social situation, I noticed that she was always talking a lot, always sharing, telling stories, and just really kind of like taking the spotlight. Well, in my mind, of course, right? And it used to just drive me crazy, and I would get so upset by it. And sometimes I would like leave, just like go, or I would pout, or whatever. It was all kinds of little behaviors that I would have, and I realized that that is a trigger for me. And that trigger, where it comes from, is that my mom used to kind of do the same thing when I was a kid. It's like anytime we had a family gathering, mom was always the one sharing and talking and kind of like taking the spotlight. And it made me feel diminished, and I never got to share, or I never chose to speak up anyway. And this was a sudden realization that I had, after the fact. But there were many times where I tried to confront my spouse about this topic. Like, why do you have to be so loud? Why do you have to talk so much? Why do you have to blah, 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 blah? And, it was a major problem for us. And I realized that what was really happening in that situation is that I had a problem with that, and I projected onto her my problem and then expected her to fix it. Yeah. So I expected her to change herself the way that she expressed herself to make me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's only kind of working halfway through the problem, because I identified the root of the problem, but instead of dealing with the root, instead of me dealing with the root and figuring out like how can I not feel that way anymore? How can I resolve the trauma from the past? But instead, I just went right back and I pointed the finger at her and I said, "No, it's your fault. You're responsible for this."
Yeah.
And of course, she wasn't happy to hear that. And it just became a massive problem in the relationship, and it never really resolved. I got divorced, and not because of that, but I'm sure partly because of that. Many other issues underlying. But yeah, Sarah and I were just talking about how that's very common, I think, in a lot of relationships, is that people realize that they're faced with a mirror because of a trigger, and then instead of really going deep inside and solving that emotional trigger, they go to their partner and ask their partner to change. Yeah. It's like, "Hey, when you do this, you really trigger me. Could you just stop doing that so I don't have to feel uncomfortable anymore?"
And I mean, the thing is that would work if that was the only case, but the thing is that if I would walk up to each and every single person that makes me feel uncomfortable, I mean, that would be a lot of work. Anyone can see that that's not reasonable. Right. But the thing is also that, let's say that Simba comes to me and says, "Yeah, you really need to talk less around the lunch table. Mm-hmm. I feel like you're taking too much space." And then you show up the next day and say, "Sarah, I would really appreciate if you could hold a little bit more space during lunch." I mean, I think it feels like you're a bit quiet. Mm-hmm. So who am I going to please?
Yeah.
And there was another example that I just loved was, okay, so you look in the mirror and you say, "Wow, I got a big nose." And then you meet another person who says, "Wow, what a small nose you have." Yeah. And then you meet another person who says, "Wow, you have a normal shaped nose."
Yeah.
Who's right? It's just everyone has their own perception. I get triggered by things that you don't get triggered by. Mm-hmm. You get triggered by things that I don't get triggered by. It just doesn't work that way, because we cannot adjust to everyone. And the whole concept of me changing to please someone else, I mean, that's fawning, and that's people pleasing. That comes from a part of the nervous system that is very, very unsafe. Right. That is an extremely unhealthy way for usually children to adapt to a situation where they have no possibility of doing anything for themselves. Like they can't just get a ticket and leave. They can't get a job, they can't leave the house, they can't, they have no saying, they have no rights. I mean, like they can't, like they are not in control of the environment. So then it's very common that people turn to fawning, like people please.
Yeah, and then it becomes a pattern.
Yeah, and that's basically what it is. you know, and we work with so many people that, I mean, we all people please in some shape or form. And, you know, the people pleasing, the depth that we work with people on this topic is, I mean, it's so goddamn deep.
It really is.
And walking around saying that other people should take care of their behavior so I don't get triggered, that's basically trying to force someone into people pleasing.
Well, that's what the whole cancel culture is. It's like, cancel
Yes.
this show because they said something, cancel this artist
Yeah,
because
if
they
you
said
don't
something.
shut up, we cancel you.
Right.
So if you don't behave, we cancel you.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's going just off the charts, because nothing good is going to come out of this snowball that, you know, that this avalanche of weaponizing that is going on when
Right.
you start to blame other people for how they make you feel.
Right.
And if everyone would walk around doing that, it would be horrible. And the other aspect of it is to take full accountability, like to really look like, okay, this happened. What did I do in this? What was my part in it? Owning that, you know, showing up, you clear it, and then you move on. It doesn't have to be worse than that.
Yeah, taking radical responsibility for your triggers.
Radical responsibility, but also setting up boundaries for yourself at the same time. It's like, okay, I take accountability for my stuff, but it has to go both ways. Because if I'm over here taking accountability and really, you know, try to work on myself and really like look at things, and I mean, that's not comfortable. That's not, I mean, that's not the funniest thing that I can think of, you know. What did I do wrong? And like, sorry about that, you know. But that's the way we grow. That's the way we, and that's how we can use the people around us as mirrors, as teachers, and to really look at our own behaviors and like, wow, I get super stressed about this. I just feel like I want to, you know, like this, I get super activated and I want to talk faster and I feel like I need to defend myself and all of that. And sometimes we do need to do that. I mean, it's not about just bowing down to everyone who has something to say, you know, like never. That's not the case at all. But there needs to be a balance, and like knowing when this is, oh, I need to take accountability for this, or okay, hold on, now it seems like you're very triggered by something. Maybe you need to step back and really, you know, touch base with yourself and see what's going on. Because as soon as we start to weaponize to the other person, then we're not in a good spot.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, that it's extremely harmful. And it's yeah, when I experience this, when I do the more and more work, and I, you know, step back from the masculine shield that I had and more into the feminine, I also understand how much the masculine shield has protected me in those cases. You know, because society, to be honest, is quite wild out there with the finger pointing and all of this. So as you kind of, or as I start to let go of the masculine shield and not having the need to protect myself in every, so I'm not like on guard, you know, and defensive and all of that. Then when people start doing that, I get very surprised. And because I have my guard down. And I remember one time when that happened to my teacher in a social situation where I was involved. And he said, so it wasn't towards me, but he explained about the situation. He was like, I didn't have my guard up. I was all open. And then the weaponizing came. And it took me 3 days to recover from that, he said. And that's really what it takes. You know, when you bring your guard down, you can see how hurtful it is and feel how hurtful it is when people do that to you out of nowhere. You know, especially when you have your guard down in a situation where you are open and soft, you know. So I can completely see why people, you know, overprotect themselves with the masculine energy, because people are really trigger happy with the weaponizing of their triggers.
Yeah, and what enables them to weaponize is taking on a state of a victim mentality, and so they righteously convince themselves, oh, I'm a victim, which gives me the right to blame or to cast like the weapon, or to cancel something, or they feel empowered to do that because they feel righteous in their victimhood.
Yeah. And that's also usually connected to a lot of unprocessed anger, because anger and entitlement are extremely friendly with each other. They come as a pair.
Yeah.
Take two, buy one, get two.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of unprocessed, because that also is connected to the people pleasing. So people who stop people pleasing, then they start to access all the anger that comes from all the boundaries that has been overstepped over the years usually. And then when they start to stand up for themselves, they do it super strong. So I've been guiding a lot of people through this, and they need to have their time where they put up strong boundaries, but it's a difference to put up a strong boundary and weaponize.
Right. There's a huge difference.
Huge difference. So having strong boundaries are never bad. I mean, you decide yourself how strong your boundaries they should be.
Mm-hmm.
But if you stop people pleasing, they are usually quite strong. But the balance is to not bring that anger, and bring the friend of entitlement and say, and the thing is that even though you're right, then we don't have like the energetical right to destroy someone else.
Right.
To go after them and bring them down.
I would say that all conflicts, all wars, all disagreements have someone thinks they're right, and they're gonna bring that to the table, no matter what, and they're gonna prove that they're right with force or with violence or with nastiness or with words or with shame, with guilt, with all of these weapons.
Yeah, I mean, so the conflict is really like an old trigger that get weaponized, and usually with entitlement. And when we start to see these things, then we can catch ourselves and like, oh, what am I doing now?
Yeah. So if we go back to my example with my particular problem, had I had the emotional maturity that I have now and the spiritual mind body understanding that I have now, I could have went to my partner and said, hey, I noticed that I get triggered whenever we're out in public and you are talking a lot. I realize that it's not you, and it's related to me and how I feel. And it's deeply connected to my self-worth and my sense of value in the public space. And I want to work with you on this. So next time we're out together and we're having a conversation, maybe you could draw me into that conversation and ask me and say, and what do you think about that, Mark? Or just any kind of way where we can start to work together and conversate together with our peers and our groups and our friends.
Yep.
And then she might have a different understanding of that and realize that I'm working on it and not blaming her. So she'll feel invited of the softness of how I approach that situation. And there's no shame, and there's no guilt, and there's no weapons in that. And so then there opens the door for us to have a real, true communication about that topic without anyone being additionally triggered.
Yeah, exactly. And you can, it's like, it's not that you can't have conflicts, because conflicts arises, but it's like, it's possible to have like mindful conflicts where you can be upset as you can be furious, but you can still be accountable for your own energy. It's like, I am furious, and it's okay to be furious. But if I say, you beepily beep beep beep, you made me furious, maybe maybe that's what I feel. But it's like slowly bringing it back and coming back to having conversations where you can express yourself without harming either yourself or the other person, and being met by the other person in that sense as well. That's when we start to have, you know, more mindful conversations, and when we start to make progress in the because usually the conflicts, I mean, it's like mine and Simba's conflicts, they always look the same. It's like, it's like,
yeah.
And we just came to a point where it was like, are we really doing this again? And both like, no. Are we doing this? No.
Well, it's like you said at the beginning, the nervous system is just reacting certain things until there's a resolution to that in the nervous system.
Yeah. And if you look closely, you say the same things. I mean, especially if it's a relationship, you know, you say the same things, then the other one respond the same way. It might be different words and the different situation, but if you look closely, it's the same thing. And you know, with both me and Simba doing so much inner work, we really started to see like, and I mean, we come to a point where sometimes I can say like, yeah, we're can you see where we are at in the cycle? And he can say, or he can say that to me, like, wow, this is not going to go anyplace good. Should we just call it a quits? Yep. But I mean, it took us a while to get there. But
it's great awareness.
But it has to both people, I mean, both people doesn't have to be on board, but if one person changes, then the whole dynamic changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I would say about this topic is that when you do notice that you're triggered, that's probably not the best time to then go try to address it with your partner.
No, 100% no.
You gotta allow the nervous system to come back down and then think about it. Yeah.
100%. So it's a work in progress, but you can take the opportunity to see like, where am I triggered? And you can start with something like, if you're at the office and there's one person, like, okay, so you look around, like, is there something that annoys the hell out of me? Okay, and then you start to look at that person. You start to like, okay, today I'm going to put my focus on that person, and then really observe, and then observe what it is inside of me. And that's probably going to be in the beginning, like, yeah, it's this and that, but yeah, that's, you know, what is that? And then after a while, if you really hone into that person, then it's going to go boom, and then something's going to go on. You know, it's like a button is pressed inside, and then like, wow. And then just look at that. Like, what is that feeling? If that, and you can make the scenario like, okay, so if this has nothing to do with that person, what is this? Let's just play a game and say that that person has nothing to do with it. It's all about me. What would that be? Why is that? What is that feeling? When have I had that feeling in another situation? And it's so cool because my teacher, he says, do you really want to walk around being like a big fat button that anyone can press and you just go off? Is that the kind of control and power that you want to give to, you know, the rest of the world?
Right.
Just press here for trigger. And that's what it is. If we blame other people, then that's what we are. We are just a big button that's just waiting to be triggered.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Because no one wants to be that. No one wants to lose control like that or give away their power like that.
No.
So it's a fun analogy, and then you go like, I don't want to be that. And it also feels so good to be able to sit through a situation that used to be a conflict. And just not go there.
Have peace.
Oh, I remember one of the first times when I could really sit that through with Simba. And you know, he came home one night and I could feel that he was very activated, and I feel that his system was looking for a way out. And I was just, no, I'm not gonna, it's like, I also take the bait, you know, it's like,
of course. Oh yeah.
Bait just hanging in front of me. And then I'm just, I'm gonna go for that. That looks tasty. And then we're at it. And then instead I was like, I'm not gonna go for that. And I'm just gonna be calm, just reply very softly, not go into it, like yes, 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 even though I started to feel like I'm not going to do that. And then after a while, his body kind of realized that, okay, this is not going to work. And then he started to become grounded instead. And I mean, he does that with me as well when I come home and like, and he's just holding space and being super calm about it. Then I can choose to feel supported instead. But I can, because I could see the effort that he did, I can say that to him sometimes, and like, I see what you're doing now, and I'm super grateful for that. You are just like holding the fort, like, no, I'm not gonna react to that, because it's like it's a bump, and if you get over that first bump, it kind of slows down.
But it takes that emotional intelligence from both people to realize that.
Yeah, and it's a work in progress.
Always.
All right. That's it for us today. We're gonna jump in the ice bath and do the sauna now.
That's right.
Yes. And if you're interested in more in-depth discussions and teachings about relationships from a feminine and masculine perspective, we have the Sacred Union relationship course starting February 14. So tune in to livingwiththespirit.com and check out what we have going on, or reach out if you want to know more. Thank you, Mark, for this triggering discussion.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a nice day, everyone. Lots of love.
Cheers.
Ciao.